Let's go to segment number 3. Let's do a report card this week. And Rob, you mentioned the NHL. You mentioned the Lightning before. The team that the Columbus Blue Jackets right there in your town knocked the Lightning out of the playoffs, swept them. A historic team the Lightning were, but they're gone already. Give us a grade for the Jackets so far in the NHL playoffs. Now they're into round 2 against the Boston Bruins.
I'd give them an A- if we can give minuses.
Sure.
It'd be an A with the Lightning. I mean, that was one of the upsets, probably one of the top 10 upsets from a series standpoint in NHL history. Here were the Jackets. A lot of people don't even know where Columbus is, quite honestly. And here comes Tampa Bay with 62 wins, tied for the most ever, the best team of this century, probably. And they get swept by the CBJ. I think it's a classic case of rest versus rust. The Lightning had it wrapped up. They knew they were in the playoffs for about a month beforehand and just kind of were in coast mode maybe. Get to the playoffs where they say you have to take it up 20%, and they just weren't able to do that. And so here the Jackets sweep them. On the other side of that, the Jackets, sweep that series, and then they have 9 games off before they play Boston. They lost the first game, 3-2 in overtime. And so I think the Columbus showed a lot of rust, didn't quite have the jump that the Bruins had in that game. This is going to be a lot tougher series for Columbus than it was in getting past Tampa Bay.
Yeah, which is crazy because, as you mentioned, that Tampa Bay team, historic in the regular season, and now, possibly a tougher road for Columbus in the second round. But, Rob, I'm curious, what are you hearing from fans there in terms of, how they feel about this team, if they don't survive the second round? I mean, Boston, one of the most historic teams in all of the NHL, if the Jackets don't get past this, is there a feeling of, man, that's disappointing? Or how are sort of people reacting to the idea that, maybe they don't survive another series and they hang their hats on the fact they swept out the Lightning? What's sort of the fan approach to all of that?
Well, just a little bit of a history lesson is the Jackets have been pretty much horrible for the first half of their existence. Had never won an opening playoff round. Had never won a playoff round till this time. So I think if you just look at it from that perspective, everything else is just sort of, cherry on top, whatever they do. That said, I think a lot of experts think that maybe they could go all the way, and the fans are starting to get to that point too. Greed is good in sports, right? So I think there would be some disappointment, but it wouldn't be crushing disappointment.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens game 2 coming up against the Bruins.